Hey everyone, and welcome to the Pat and Mike Show. We wanted to jump on today because we're getting so many questions because now is open enrollment, at everyone's work when it comes to benefits, life insurance, and we're getting so many questions about, I did a trust last year and now it's time to really, fund it. So what do I need to do to make sure that the trust is tied to the account? And so we have on with us today, we've seen Linda before, but we also have on Caitlin. They're both attorneys at the Rakowski Law Firm that deal a lot with the funding of trusts. So we thought we'd just get on here, take 5 minutes and talk through, what do you need to know when you're funding your employer managed accounts?
Yep. And just to say, kind of before we get into it, that employer managed accounts like life insurance, like health insurance, they're all very, very unique, kind of custom to each place. There's a bunch of different providers and those plans take on different forms. So everything we're saying here, or that they'll be saying here, because they know what's going on, is very valuable information, but it's also general information. A 401k is a 401k regardless of who's setting it up. But when it comes to life insurance, health insurance, and how those work, the structure, the forms, those all vary place to place. So if you do have more specific questions, don't hesitate to reach out. That's why our contact info is there at the bottom. But, Caitlin, Linda, what should people know going into this period?
Sure. So very generally speaking, if you are trying to connect one of your retirement accounts to your trust, so be it a 401k or an IRA, what we generally advise is if you are married, you always put your spouse as that first primary beneficiary. So if you're married, your spouse is the first beneficiary. If you are single, you'll name your trust as the first beneficiary. So that's kind of like the distinction between married and single that we, advise. If you are married and your spouse is the primary beneficiary, your trust will be the contingent beneficiary. And when you're filling out the information about your trust, what we generally recommend is the name of your trust, use your full trust name. And that appears on the very first page of your trust, right after the page or the table of contents, or it'll be on your certificate of trust. So those pages show the full long name of your trust. It'll say your name, trustee of the blank family trust, and it'll have the date. So just look for that, and that'll be the name of your trust.
Now,
a lot of plans. Okay, go ahead, Pat.
Sorry, I was going to ask because you said when you're filling it out, when people are filling what out, what is it that they'd be using this title for?
Sure. So usually your employers will either there's like an online portal where you'll fill in this information when you go through open enrollment, or you'll get a form from your employer, which will ask for all this information. And it's usually like a beneficiary change or a beneficiary update form. And that's where you're filling in all this information.
And you started talking about something really important. It's like the first question I'm getting when people are like, what's the name of my trust? And so, I think the easiest form, at least for any of the families that we work with, is it's the cover page says something like the Smith Family Trust dated September 1, 2020. And so the date is just really important to know. The date is part of the name, right?
Exactly.
So I'm sorry. I think you only get like a small little box to write that in. How the heck am I going to put it all in there?
Linda, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I sure do. Okay. So the name typically will say John and Mary Smith, trustees of the Smith Family Trust. You typically, as soon as it says trustees of the words that appear after, so Smith Family Trust, dated whatever date, usually put that shortened name because they don't usually give you many characters to use. If they do, great, use the full name of the trust. If not, just whatever words appear after, typically the word the. And if the word the is capitalized, that typically signifies that it may be part of the trust name, okay? And sometimes they'll also ask you, what is the birthday of the trust? That's the day you sign the trust. So that's kind of one of the questions they will ask you on those forms as well.
Gotcha. And I know that each of us has looked through an awful lot of trusts over the years. But if it's one that we did, another good place to look for it is where you're looking on the certificate of trust and it says, the proper manner for taking title to property under this trust is, and there it is right there in bold. As you said, Linda, cutting off kind of that initial part, but the so-and-so family trust dated whatever date. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's extremely important to make sure you don't add extra words. So sometimes it could say Smith Living Trust, and then we'll see some companies throw in Smith Family Living Trust, and the word family is not truly part of the trust name. You could run into issues if an extra word is thrown in and it's not truly part of the trust name.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a way to shorten the dated, right? I think I see a lot of times.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yep. So even if your trust name, it's still not letting you put in that shortened name. If it's still like a couple characters too long, definitely use that UAD abbreviation, and that's a commonly used abbreviation.
Okay. And then, I was going to say, if we're getting into kind of the next level from that, it's, there's the name of the trust, but Mike over here isn't the only Michael L. Rutkowski in the world, let alone the only one in Rochester. So when it comes to a tax ID number or anything like that for the trust, how would that appear? How do people know what that tax ID number is?
Sure. So usually the plan will ask for either a tax ID number. Sometimes they just call it the identification number. It kind of goes by a few different terminology, but that ID number is going to be your social security number. Mm-hmm. And if you are a married couple, our default is to use the husband's social security number for that default number. So I know it's so wrong, but that's just our firm's default. If you
that's just because the legal world's just so behind the times.
It really is. So
but then it's for sake of convenience as well. So if you were to go through the accounts, you don't want to sit there and think, wait, did I use the husband's social security? Did I use the wife's? If you just default to one, it's much easier to kind of keep track. Oh, it's one social security number. Oh, it's the husband's, and it just kind of keeps things in order.
Mm-hmm. And if it's something you really feel strongly about at our funding meetings, if you really want, the spouse to be the ID number to be under the wife's social security number, we do that all at the funding meeting, and we have the default be the wife's social security. So really, if you feel that strongly about it, it's something we address at our funding meetings. Definitely.
Very good.
That's great. Last point I want to make on that is just there are some irrevocable trusts out there that do carry a EIN or a tax ID number while the grantor, the person who created it, is still living. So just knowing what kind of trust, most of the ones that we do would just be the social security number for the individual, but it's just something else to be noted.
And also, so we've been talking so far about, when we're talking employer provided benefits, yes, IRA, 401k, 403b, all of that, but also life insurance, any of those benefits that would be provided by your employer, they all follow similar forms. Yes?
Mm-hmm. It is very similar for life insurance policies. What we generally do is default the primary beneficiary is always the trust. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter if you're single, you're married, the primary beneficiary is going to be the trust. And we do a little extra, I don't know how to phrase this, but if you have an irrevocable trust with us, then we take additional steps besides naming the trust the beneficiary that we handle as well. But we're going to keep this general, where just the primary beneficiary is going to be the trust for life insurance policies.
And I think just to emphasize, Caitlin made a really good point there, that they are really similar, but that there are some important differences. And that happens a lot with this area, where it's like an orange is really similar to a lemon. They're pretty close to each other, but you're not just gonna unwrap a lemon or unpeel a lemon and just start eating it. They're close, but man, is there a difference between the two. So making sure that things are done properly really does matter, especially in this area.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being on today. I hope this answers people's questions as we're going through the open enrollment period. If anyone has any questions about funding or would like our help in funding their trust, feel free to reach out to the firm, 1-800-ESTATES, or you can reach us on the website, which is down scrolling at the bottom, rakowskilawfirm.com. Thanks again for joining us, and we should see everyone tomorrow here talk about other good estate planning stuff.
Fantastic. Take care.
Bye, guys.